And welcome to the start of the LEC group stage here for Spring Split. I'm Medic, that's Vedius. And we are here for the first best of 3 of the day. Vitality taking on Mad Lions.
Yeah, and who would have thought that neither of these teams coming into the group stage as the first seed, Medic, neither of these teams really got much of a choice. It was Astralis that did choose Fnatic, who we'll get to see later on in the day. But Vitality and Mad Lions looking for a bit of redemption after what was a bit of an inconsistent up and down regular season. But I think we can both agree, Vitality definitely coming in as the favorites in today's best of 3.
Yeah, I think strong favorites. Overwhelming favorites, I think you could go for. We'll see how the patch has changed things, how the break week has affected our 2 teams as we jump into draft for game 1. Let's dive right into it. In case you didn't hear in Ready Check, Melio and Yuumi are disabled for the entirety of the LEC playoffs, so you won't be seeing it banned or picked. And if it's ever hovered, we can tut menacingly at the person that does it.
As the British do.
It's just disgraceful behavior. But there's the Annie banned away already. Gragas as well removed away from Nisqy, no surprises there. Varus as well taken out of the pool. A very red and purple theme going on so far, Betty.
And as a reminder to everyone watching, you can see that we are on patch 13.6.
The only region.
Yeah, the rest of the world have been playing their playoffs on 13.5, so we will get a glimpse at what is to come, perhaps at MSI. Regardless, let's have a look and see what else is taken off the board. Annie continues to be removed. As you mentioned, Medic, the Sejuani now being taken away from Bo. We know that Bo has shown both carries and tank performances. I wonder where Maokai has fallen back. After the nerfs, especially in Europe, everyone said, nope, bad champ, you now can't play. But the rest of the world said, actually, I still think that this champ can be viable in certain compositions. So how much of a priority will there be? Things like the Vi has been a super high priority around the world. Xayah and Rakan, with the Rakan removed away. How important is that Xayah still?
We already see 2 of the junglers taken away, and there's the third Maokai. You talked about it, Betty. Immediately locked in for Vitality. Can be flexed to support as well, of course. Does give you engage potential. You don't quite become as tanky as you would from the jungle, but still a very viable support option. Mad Lions now. Historically, it would be jungle plus AD or jungle plus support here. We'll see if 13.6 has changed anything up, but actually looks like Mad Lions might look towards a bit of a flex to kick us off with the Jayce.
When we watch the LCK, we've seen Jayce be an incredibly high priority, with Malphite often even hitting the ban table. We know that Photon is a proficient Malphite player. He's brought it out a couple times during the regular season. And we know Chasy is a player that last split we saw dominate on this Jayce pick. The regular season wasn't quite as dominant for him, but still something that the Mad Lions have confidence in his ability to carry with.
And there is the Lucian once again. Kind of hoped that perhaps he would fall a little bit out of favor alongside the Xayah falling down the pecking order a little bit, but still wasn't really touched over the last couple of patches, so Lucian Nami a possibility here for Mad Lions. Would be the first Lucian Nami they've played in Spring though, so going back to an old faithful for them. Vitality now taking a few moments to ponder what their options are, and unsurprisingly, is it Zeri, Lulu, Lucian, Nami again, Vedius?
May very well be, Medic. May very well be. Oh, what a surprise. They have the engage with the Maokai. Some things change, some things stay the same. Still, it's always a pleasure to watch upset on a champion that has an incredible amount of agency. We'll see if Carzzy can have the performance that he had in the tiebreaker match against Heretics. The man really did step up for Mad Lions to help them secure a spot in the group stage. And eyes are going to be on him as he goes toe-to-toe with one of the best performing AD carries that we have in the league. So, well-known bot lane matchup, something that we've come to expect. Top lane yet to be locked in for Vitality, jungle yet to be locked in for Mad. They're relying on Elyoya's champion pool hit, but things like the Malphite you have to consider will be taken off the board. You also have to remember that Photon, not afraid to play carries, right? Things like Aurelia are things you have to be cautious of. Potentially something like a Gwen. The Jax as well also has to be taken into consideration. Photon, widely considered the strongest top laner that we have in our league right now. In lane, he seems to be the most proficient, and his champion pool is definitely something that needs to be respected.
One thing I do like from Mad Lions, though, is by picking the Jayce early, you show your decision to perhaps play a little bit more around the top lane in this game. It's something that worked really well for them in winter. If they can get Chasy ahead, that tended to be how they were able to win games, and we haven't seen it so much in spring. A lot of their play was through the mid lane into the bot side of the map, and perhaps Mad Lions will have rectified things over the last couple of weeks.
Well, the thing is, we've talked so much about this potential Jayce in the top lane. You've got to remember that it's a flex.
Could be mid, yep.
And that's the big advantage that you do have with the priority on this Jayce. So if something like a Malphite was locked in, they could move the Jayce into the mid lane. You see that Tristana ban, it does suggest to me that Mad Lions is thinking about the potential option to put that Jayce in mid. But also, Vitality want to try and create that damage portfolio spread, right? When you have the Maokai in the jungle, you often pair that up with an AD mid laner with some pushing power. The Sylas now taken away from Nisqy. I like this a lot, but Worlds last year, we saw Sylas be a very effective answer into Maokai because of your ability to steal away that ultimate, either use it as an engage yourself or a potential counter engage.
And here we see Mad Lions trying to rectify their damage profile or correct it a little bit as well. With the Trundle, I expect either we'll see an AP top with the Kennen or Rumble, or it will be Nisqy taking something AP mid.
I'm really happy to see Trundle surfacing once again.
Yep.
We've been seeing so much Sejuani and Maokai, and we've been seeing Sion Blind come out from a lot of teams. And this is something, shout out to Yamato, I was listening to him talk about it on his stream, that he expected to be a high priority. We're very much aligned with him, and we're already seeing it here from the Mad Lions.
It's also great into the Malphite. Malphite and Yone immediately locked in for Vitality. Could, of course, be Malphite mid for Perkz. We saw Caps do it a few times. Doesn't have to be, but depending on where Mad Lions put that Jayce, matching him up against the Malphite does give you a little bit of an easier lane matchup. Mad now looking for some magic damage to round out their composition. I wonder where they will decide to go. Ahri, of course, a possibility. Won't be Nisqy's 11th unique champion. He has played this once before, and he'll crack it out again here in game 1 against Vitality.
So Mad Lions have a very powerful side lane comp.
Yep.
They're really good at finding picks, taking advantage of people that are out of position, leveraging the fact that you have strong wave clear and tools to be able to answer things on a side lane. And the main problem that they have is Team Vitality's composition is very much about front to back, right? You've got a Malphite, Maokai, very effective at starting fights pretty much whenever they want to. The follow-up from Yone and Zeri is incredibly effective. Then the Lulu just provides so much utility. Vitality's composition is very straightforward, whereas Mad need to be very proactive in the early game. They have very powerful skirmishes. The 2v2s, the 3v3s, their top side of the map, bringing Lucian into these fights, getting those early items that you can often get on the Lucian is going to be incredibly important. Mad need to show that they can get ahead in the early game against Vitality, which so far this season has not been the case.
Yeah, it hasn't been Mad's strong point at all. Early game near the bottom of the table in most of the metrics that we do track. Vitality, on the other hand, tend to be up near the top. We'll see if Vitality can have a better group stage than they did in winter, of course. They were able to pick up one win in the best of threes, but were knocked out eventually by SK. Mad Lions also failed their first best of 3, but in the end were able to... Oh, no, actually, they beat Astralis in their first best of 3, and then were able to beat Astralis again to make it to our top 4. For Vitality, they need to make it up into our playoffs. Let's see if they can start off on the right foot today. Lights out, and away we go onto Summoner's Rift once again. Just for anyone at home, perhaps is wondering, what stage of the season are we at? You know, everywhere else is already into their playoffs on their finals weekend for LCS and LCK. At the moment, we are in the group stage. 2 best of 3s between you and a spot in our top 4. If you win both, you go through to the upper bracket. If you lose one but win 2, you go through to the lower bracket. In essence, every team can lose 1 series from here on out. If you lose 2 series, you are out of the LEC Spring Split. We'll keep you updated on that, obviously, as things progress. But right now, if you lose this, you are not out of the split. It's just a bit of a harder road for you to make it into our top 4.
3 weeks left of the LEC Spring Split, this week, next week, and then our finals weekend before we head on off to MSI. Starting to figure out who our other representative for Europe will be. But we are only just beginning of the group stages. So let's have a look Elyoya starting off on the bot side of the map, with Bo looking to do the same. Of course, by starting on the Raptors, he has a bit of flexibility with the direction that he may go. Medic so very kindly brought up the runes for those interested. You can have a look across the board. First strike, not that uncommon for the Lucian especially. This is something that we often don't talk about, but it's something I think that gives Lucian a lot of agency. The fact that you passively generate a lot of that extra early gold means that you can get to those item spikes just that bit earlier, and in the mid game, when you reach those 2 items, you're just so strong on the Lucian, it gives you so much more control. That is something Mad Lions will need to take advantage of. Nisqy doing a similar thing when going up against the Yone. Not too surprising, given that you are ranged into melee and you can really get a lot of value out of it during the laning phase.
Yeah, Bo as well deciding to go for the Aftershock here. We did see for a while first strike Maokai when you had a little bit more magic damage in your kit. Now, he will still be able to... You can still go Demonic Embrace with Aftershock if you want, but it means that overall your damage is a little bit more muted than if you went full AP on the tree.
So both junglers pathing up towards the top side of the map, and this is advantageous for Elyoya. Remember what we talked about in draft was that he wants to try and look for these early skirmishes. He's down to go 2v2, 3v3s, because especially on a Trundle into a Maokai, you're going to get those early skirmishes going in your favor. So he wants to try and track Bo, make sure that he can contest him on things like the Crab, and then also offer support for Chasy, who slowly and steadily will be building advantages in the 1v1. Things start to get scary for Jayce once that level 6 rolls around, and already Elyoya looking for a bit of an invade with the pressure that he has generated in top lane.
Yeah, Bo perhaps realizing might be happening. Spotted perhaps. The sapling there does expire. Bo's looking up towards that top lane. Elyoya on his way up here as well. Bo actually flashed over the wall to get here outside of vision. Chasy trading onto Photon. Elyoya now in the bush. Will Bo go for it? Stepping forward, twisted advance to a minion. Elyoya can put down the Pillar of Filth and they continue to trade in, but Bo should be able to walk away from this one, wounded, but still alive.
Wow. The fact that Bo was able to circumvent that invade from Elyoya, I wonder what he was thinking there, because it felt to me like Bo was predicting it. He was expecting this invade to come through. And if he was, just very smart decision-making. He wanted to catch Chasy completely off guard. Chasy's using the knowledge that his jungler is invading and keeping the enemy jungler busy. That means that he has the agency and the freedom to just push and bully Photon in the 1v1. But Bo then took advantage of that, snuck past all of the vision, and found a way to try and gank Chasy. Unfortunately for Bo, it doesn't quite work out the way that he wanted to, and Elyoya should still be able to gain an advantage in the jungle as Bo just concedes that top side of the jungle.
Yeah, he's going to work his way down towards this bottom side. Has pushing bot, has a lane pushed in the mid lane as well, which means that Rift Scuttler, the Scuttle Crab for him, will be available. And Elyoya using that early skirmish pressure of the Trundle, especially with Press the Attack, just to steal away some of these camps. Bo giving him the respect that's due to a jungler like this. And Bo just has to accept that he has lost out a little bit in the early game. Perkz might be caught out here in the mid lane. Does have that flash charm from Nisqy, a possibility. Perkz gets the knock up. Flash forward, flash away. Perkz with the shield, the charm away. The Spirit Unbound to get him away. And Nisqy not quite able to get enough damage down.
Wow, Perkz played that so well. He held the flash for as long as he could, but Bo is now on the attack himself.
Carzzy and Hylissang pretty low mana here. Do still have all of their sums though. Carzzy using the piercing light to try and clear out the way. The heal comes out early. Polymorph into the cleanse. Kaiser attacking the tower. 2 shots, not enough to take him down, but the dive stymied, stopped by Mad Lions. They survive the attempt on their lives.
Very early heal from Hylissang. My apologies. The cleanse as well from Carzzy, mitigating the dive. See the Bo doing what he can, but nothing really coming off the back of it. But going back to that mid lane play, Perkz, he knew that he had the Q3. He wanted to wait for the pillar to come through before using it so that he could create space between him and Elyoya. He recognized that there was enough space between him and Elyoya that he didn't need to flash unless a flash was committed onto him. So he was waiting for that early flash. The moment that Nisqy flashed in, that was when he flashed away. And then he used his E to dodge the charm. Just really great play from Perkz to sidestep that gank and get away with his life.
Even using the W for the bit of shielding you get as you hit an enemy champion. Definitely helped him out. I'm not sure it was the difference maker in the fight, but definitely gave him a little bit more effective HP. Chasy trading onto Photon here. Level 6 to level 5. Obviously, on the Jayce doesn't give you too much, pressing over that level 6 mark, but Photon has been forced away. Hylissang's on his way up here as well. Shock Blast just wide. Photon about 3-4 minions away from hitting level 6. You can see that purple bar next to his champion portrait on the left, just ticking over. And there it is. One more will be enough for 6 for him. He gets it as Chasy continues to trade in. Nisqy's on his way across here as well, Vedi. You can see Bo trying to respond. Perkz now moving from the mid lane. Kaiser on his way up here as well. But in the end, it looks like it will just be a plate over to Mad Lions.
We talked about how Mad need to leverage their early game strengths in order to build advantages and kind of get these skirmishes going. And they're doing a great job so far. Nisqy just has stronger wave clear than Perkz does in the early game, and they're taking advantage of that. Nisqy burns the ult.
Spirit Rush coming in from Nisqy, but Bo can just Hex Flash across the wall.
There's no wave now. The dive isn't going to come through. Mad Lions, you can see that they tried to roam up towards top lane just as the wave crashed, but then they overcommitted here, I feel, because now Perkz is going to be able to get another wave in underneath that mid tower. He's also going to get a bit of a trade onto Nisqy, force him to go the long way around, and that's a whole wave that Nisqy's lost that he didn't need to lose. Of course, only a small disadvantage you can see in terms of the gold. It's not that big of a difference. The biggest thing is the XP. Medic already highlighted it earlier. I'll draw your attention to it once again. These little pink bars next to the portrait indicate how close the individuals are to their next level, and Perkz is going to tick over to 6. So he's now got about, 7 rather. He's now got about half an XP advantage over Nisqy, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. But every time you make those roams, you take a gamble. Lido was talking about this in an interview. Every time you commit to a roam, you need to make something work. Otherwise, it ends up not being worth it because they can play for plates, they can play for XP, and small advantage ultimately gained for Perkz.
And also, Nisqy uses ultimate, right? It's half the way off its cooldown already, but that's another threat that Perkz no longer has to think about in the mid lane when you know that Nisqy can't jump in, can't chase you, especially with the Yone having burnt Flash in that earlier play. Would have applied just a little bit more pressure on the Vitality mid laner. For the moment, on as even in this early game. You can see a slight CS lead for Upset down towards that bottom lane. Part of that will be, Carzzy and Hylissang having to farm underneath the tower when Bo came for that dive, but also partly Upset just very good at farming on the Zeri.
Yeah, impressive stuff, the fact that he can just find these CS advantages. So far, he knows he needs to play safe because Bo is on the top side of the map. A ward will be dropped by Chasy, so they have information now. Carzzy and Hylissang see this as an opportunity to trade.
I put the culling down onto Kaiser, but he can just whimsy his way away. Sapling catches onto Elyoya and Nisqy. Perkz trying to get him from the side here. Remember, ultimate available. Fate sealed for Perkz on top of force already onto Elyoya. There's the fate sealed follow-up as well, and Elyoya is popped where he stands. Bo flashes away from Chasy, but Nisqy dives in as well. 1 for 1 so far. Both the junglers have fallen. Perkz going to try and get away from this one. Remember, no flash on him. Charging up that Q3. Will be able to escape. Riftheld, patience, resets. And we'll walk all the way back into the pit. Mad Lions won't get anything out of the end of the fight.
So just a trade of junglers there. I think the positioning for Mad was very awkward. They were being collapsed on 3 sides. Bo, not quite level 6, meant that, well, same for Elyoya in the moment, but meant that there was no powerful ultimate that could come through from the Maokai. But the follow-up from Perkz onto Photon's initial engage was strong. You can see that this Trundle didn't really get an opportunity to move. I lied, actually. Elyoya did have the level 6. He doesn't get a chance to use it. Knocked up into the root from the Maokai into the ultimate. Yeah, he's just perma-CC'd. The man doesn't get an opportunity to play. No room to flash. The follow-up CC from Vitality was good, but then you can see Bo flashes into the pit and there's no real way for him to escape, so Mad trade themselves a kill back.
One of those things where Elyoya has to flash the initial CC because otherwise you're just locked up for days, right? It's an airborne, into a root, into a fate sealed. And it was exactly that for the Mad Lions. Jungler Riftheld now started once again by Vitality.
Now you can see Nisqy never had an opportunity to back off the back of that. And Perkz really didn't lose that much in terms of the actual exchange. So he was actually able to push that wave in once again and then offer support to Bo. So just great coordination between the mid jungle there from Vitality. Gain another advantage. Perkz should be able to push in one more wave. Nisqy doesn't have the TP yet. And can we quickly look at the gold, see how much Perkz is currently sitting on?
This one?
There we are. He's sitting on a what? I think that's 2.2k gold. That's a lot of money that he's got to spend. So he's definitely sitting pretty. Should be able to pick up the boots. Maybe even want to try and rush that early. Not Bloodthirster, Shield Bow is the item that you'll often see prioritized.
We all saw the double vamp scepter there for a second. Perkz realizes that instead he wants the crit cloak. Oh, I forgot that that one automatically takes itself away, and we see the trade of neutral objectives in the early game here as well, Vedi. Mad Lions get the first dragon of the game. Of course, dragons ever so slightly nerfed on this patch, but still very effective to stack up those souls. Riftheld was picked up earlier for Vitality. Mad Lions trying to use some pressure to get down towards this bottom side of the map. Bo, a little bit over-eager here as Nisqy goes in, looking for the charm. Nature Scar's coming out as well. Perkz with the fate sealed once again on Elyoya, who does still have the flash and is very, very tanky. Subjugate on Bo will cut him where he stands. Upset coming in from the side as well, and Upset with the lightning crash takes one. They tried to dash across the wall, but Nisqy, even with the flash, the Aqua Prism, not enough. Culling from the side, Carzzy trying to put some chip damage back down, but now how can he escape from the clutches of Vitality? Perkz will slay him where he stands. A double for Perkz. Vitality 3 for 1.
And things are very quickly falling apart for Mad Lions in this early game. They needed to find early skirmishes. They needed to find early fights to try and get ahead in this game because the scaling from Vitality is so very strong, and they do a good job finding that pick onto Bo. They showed you what this composition was capable of, but then the collapse from Vitality's bot lane was so much quicker. The moment that Upset arrives, he's able to secure a kill, he gets himself a double buff, and then Perkz is able to clean up the fight. Level 9, about to hit level 10. And you can see, I question Mad here prioritizing, well, sorry, it's not Mad, it's Vitality actually prioritizing Elyoya, because remember, he's just stealing away all these stats from the Maokai. You'd think that the squishier target would be Nisqy, but they've committed onto Elyoya. They tried to kill him, and he just tanks it all up. He does not care. They get that execution onto Bo, but look at Upset very quickly collapsing. No opportunity for Elyoya to flash away. Nisqy, I wonder if he actually got interrupted there. It did look like that the knockup came through from Perkz, but I wasn't quite able to keep my eyes on it. Either way, Nisqy ends up falling, and then Perkz commits onto Carzzy, securing himself another kill.
I think we'd have to have a look back at it, but in my eyes, he spirit rushed when he was just a bit too far away from the wall, so he couldn't get across. It did look a little bit jank, though, so I'm sure he will be ruining the fact that he didn't just immediately go for the flash and then spirit rush afterwards.
But Vitality in a great position right now.
Great position.
They have a very strong scaling composition. Things like the Trundle can always make it harder, but I guess well, I mean, it's one of those things where you've got both a Maokai and the Malphite sieging in front of your face. Like, which one do you want to prioritize ulting? You would assume the Malphite, but even then, what are you going to do with the fact that this Yone and Zeri is going to be immediately following up on those engages? Mad Lions, they're in a difficult position right now. They need to find a good fight, a small skirmish. Perhaps the next Drake will be that opportunity.
Up in 2.5 minutes is a Chem Tech Drake, which means we won't have a Chem Soul, thank goodness, Vedi. The most useless soul in the game, even though like you still have like an 80% win rate if you get it, but obviously a little bit skewed as the Unstoppable Force comes in the top lane. Chasy trading onto Photon, Photon trading back, slaps him around with those big granite arms, but Chasy with the range advantage will be able to force Photon back underneath his tower.
Felt like good damage there from Photon. Thought he would have kill threat, but decided not to commit. Bit of a trade from Perkz. Oh, charm a little too early there from Nisqy. So he won't really be able to convert that into much. Does look like Nisqy's going for the Andries build. Personally a big fan of it on the Ahri.
Yep.
Gives you a lot of cooldown reduction. Feels very nice to play on the Ahri. Also does relatively well into the tanks too. Ultimate now from Bo.
Hylissang has the flash, but immediately Upset jumps across the wall, knocks him back with the Bramble Smash, and that's enough for Upset to take his second kill of the game. Seems like every time Mad Lions try to step into darkness, Vitality are waiting there for them. Nisqy now working his way up towards the top side, but Photon's already started his base, and it's like, well, we're going to give up plates. We're going to probably give up this entire top tower. Plates not even, because it's already past that 14-minute mark. Perkz TPing in means that they don't even lose the turret. And Vitality playing the map really well right now.
There were two moments in this early game where I think Perkz was able to gain so much more control over the mid lane matchup. That first one was the roam top, when Nisqy overcommitted, ended up losing that initial wave. And then there was the second, which was that fight around the Herald, where Nisqy didn't get an opportunity to reset, and Perkz was able to get a number of extra waves. That meant that Perkz could complete his shield bow and the Zerka's Greaves ahead of Nisqy, who's only just now been able to pick up his Leandries. And the fact that using his item advantage was able to then gain pressure and push in the mid wave, which then allowed him to move to the bot side of the map. And the fact that Perkz has been able to move and assist his team in so many of these early plays has been instrumental in Vitality's early success. The gold lead isn't dramatic, but it's where it needs to be. You can see Perkz with a massive advantage, Upset building a massive advantage as well. That's a lot of daggers that he's sitting within his inventory.
It's like me playing PoE. It's like, if I craft it enough, one of them will have a rare affix. I'm sure of it. But yeah, it's Upset just looking for all the extra attack speed that he can get. The next Drake that we talked about, perhaps an opportunity for Mad Lions to find a fight. Wait, let me just there was a lot of zeros on the screen, so I thought I'd add a few of us as well. All praise the circle.
All praise the circle.
Obviously, will
the circle be able to help with the upcoming Drake? Looks like Mad Lions are going to say no.
Yep.
They're going to abandon it. Vitality prioritizing the bot side of the map.
They just turn 360 degrees and walk away.
Indeed, a lot of zeros on our screen right now. We'll look to get that rectified as quickly as possible. But just know, Vitality ahead. Fnatic is not the team, Mad Lions is, and they are behind.
Yeah, I heard from our producers we're looking to get it rectified, so obviously we'll get it fixed as soon as possible. we do poke and prod, but producing is a hard life, especially when these things
find a way, you know, somehow.
I mean, they're in the next series. They play up against Astralis. Those are the other two teams in this group. Astralis actually picking Fnatic, which is a choice that I think a few people would have seen as a little bit interesting, considering Mad Lions have been struggling in winter so far.
You can see how much more control over the map Vitality now have. The carries being unlocked. There we are. A little bit more information on our screen now. As Perkz will assist Bo in securing this objective. And ultimately, everything looking good for Vitality in this early game. The goal difference, again, not that dramatic. It's not something that the Mad Lions can't claw their way out of, but compositionally, it feels very difficult. And look at what Vitality have drafted. The great thing about this Yone pick is it's someone that can match pretty much anyone on a side lane. He's one of the best 1v1 champions in the game. He scales incredibly well, and it's such a difficult champion to deal with. The only thing that something like an Ahri can do is wave clear, maybe find a charm, chip damage, but an all-in. Yone's going to win that every time. And Chasy, he's not going to be able to do much against this Malphite either, especially as more items continue to come through now, both threatening a dive onto Nisqy, and here it comes.
There's the Nature's Grasp. Nisqy clears out the way, Spirit rushes away, can Spirit rush back, and here's Elyoya as well. Hex Splash across the wall, but it's stopped by the pillar that I think we saw in the middle of the wall there. Nisqy takes the kill. Elyoya stops Bo's retreating plan. Mad Lions get another kill on the board.
I think Bo actually just Hex Flashed into the wall, Medic.
How is possible?
I think it looked like that he didn't have enough range. He wasn't close enough to the wall to get over. He did end up losing his life. Really nice play from Nisqy. Uses the ultimate early to avoid the Nature's Grasp to then team up with his jungler and find a pick. Perkz now looking for Nisqy though, no ulti.
Nisqy straight into the bush, meets up with Perkz, does still have the flash, can use it to get across the wall. Charm going out with a Q3 from Perkz will chase Nisqy down. Nisqy shut out of the game on Unstoppable Force as well onto Hylissang, and that's another one to Vitality. Anything Mad can do, they can do twice as well as they pick up another couple of kills, and they're looking to push in this mid lane tower.
The only Carzzy left to defend. Well, actually, the wave isn't that big.
They
He's
have
holding
Rift
it for
held
the time
though
being.
in a second when Bo joins.
Yeah, and they're likely just going to drop that as Perkz continues his onslaught in the top lane. That kill onto Nisqy as well, the solo kill, is going to be so detrimental to the matchup. Vitality just have so much more control over the map right now. You can feel how strong this team is as they're now looking to siege. I think they can continue this push. Two members have been committed to the top side of the map from Mad to try and slow down the pressure from Perkz. They should be able to push this out into the tower. And the damage is done. The Vitality in game one of this best of three looking clean and sending a very clear message that they're looking to remove some of their inconsistencies from the regular season, and they're looking dominant so far.
They really are. And for Mad Lions, it's more of the same from Spring Split. Just a struggle to really find what works for them. We did wonder if they play a little bit more around Chasy in this game. They did a little bit, but even though he's 40 CS up, it really doesn't give them too much in terms of composition. You talked about it, Vedi. And Vitality will be very happy with the state of affairs right now. 2 items on Perkz. Vedi, somewhere in Berlin, Nymira is so happy right now. He is so happy. Double needlessly large rod. It's a rabbit on second for Nisqy. It probably still isn't going to win them the game, but it will do damage.
I mean, yeah. I mean, personally, I don't know if I'm a massive fan of Deathcap in this space. Right now, you need, like, damage in the short term. Deathcap's super expensive.
The extent of my knowledge on Nymira's Ahri builds is he likes damage, so I saw damage and I said it's good. He can quite possibly say it's not great as the TP does come in. Perkz looking for Nisqy here. Elyoya across the wall as well. There's the charm. Pillar goes down. Nisqy has the blast cone to escape and will be able to dodge his way out of that one. Elyoya dashing back away from the Ultra Shock laser. And for the moment, Mad Lions able to keep their mid laner alive.
We'll get away to safety. So, next objective Vitality should be looking at is the dragon spawning relatively soon. And all they need to do is get that mid control once again. They are clearing out some of the vision that was invested around the Baron. Remember that it's really easy for Vitality to gain space. Even if Vitality are on the objective first, they have so many tools that they can just face check with. Send Photon in first, send Bo in first. They're happy to do whatever.
You can even send Perkz in with the Soul Unbound.
If you really want to.
Chuck him in with the E, comes back out.
Nice little trade there from Carzzy to chip away at Upset. But yeah, ultimately, like, and you can see how easy it is. Vitality, they invested their vision topside and they don't care about the vision bot. They'll just move into the river and now they'll gain control over the space. Mad moving back towards the Baron. I'd be surprised if they threatened it.
Bo has the ultimate back up. Pillar of Filth does come down. Huge amount of damage onto Bo, as you say. Elyoya able to walk away from this one. Unstoppable Force onto Chasy. They're looking to burst down the Jayce, and they will do exactly that. Kaiser takes it. Fate shield as well, catches Elyoya and Nisqy, and that's 2 already for Vitality. Photon low, Bo 2, but Photon walked away wounded, able to survive in the end. He takes the Leandries, but here is the chase, and it's a Zeri moment if I've ever seen one. Double kill, a triple for Upset, a 4 kill for Naught. On the side of Vitality, the quadra for them, and Baron instead of Dragon seems to be the name on the menu.
Perkz can tank this without any problems, and it's a clean ace for Vitality. While they lost their front line, this is the ideal outcome. Deathless are the 2 carries for Vitality. And props to Hylissang. He did everything that he could to keep Perkz out of the fight. He threw the ultimate, he threw the bubble, but he could not stop the onslaught of Perkz. They'll wait. Oh, they didn't wait. 1 more second they needed to wait for Photon to be able to get that Baron as well. A little unfortunate there.
He doesn't need it. He's a rock. He's fine.
But now he's stuck in a hard place.
That's true. That's true.
Regardless, when we get the replay up, we can do a proper breakdown of exactly how that fight played out, because it looked really good initially for the Mad Lions. Carzzy did so much damage onto Bo, and you'd think that, oh, maybe this is a good situation actually for Mad to reclaim some space. Maybe they can actually threaten the Baron themselves. Like, look at the damage here, the pillar as well. And the ultimate, though, lands onto the Jayce, and Photon sees the opportunity. Upset with the follow-up, he stays right behind, and then you can see this bubble onto Perkz, but it doesn't matter. The follow-through with the ultimate means that Elyoya gets locked down, and then it's just a chase from Upset. They can't stop him. Good route onto Nisqy from Bo, means that it does cost him his life, but then the 2-man knockup from Perkz. The carries are on form today from Vitality as they clean up the fight.
It's decimation for Mad Lions. They are 4,000 gold behind. Dragon, though, will be taken for them. They're second of the game, but Vitality now with Baron buff remain in the driver's seat. As you say, Upset in a commanding position on this Zeri. It's played 3 games on it so far, 2-1. It looks like it's going to be 3-1 pretty shortish. And I think this game is kind of going to expectations. If you looked at how the teams were performing in spring, I think a lot of people would have looked at Vitality as one of the favorites to make it to the playoffs, if not to the finals, and they're showing exactly why that faith is very much justified in them as a team.
Yeah, I mean, very little to criticize from Vitality this game. It felt like Bo had such a great awareness in the early game of what he could and couldn't do, and he never gave Elyoya the opportunity to find those early skirmishes. Mad were never really present in the early game. It was a very dead even game, and it was Vitality that was really dictating the pace. The ultimate now comes through from Bo. Chasy is forced to flash away, and Vitality, they secure themselves another tower. Ping's coming out onto the top lane. Perkz is going to go over there. Should have his TP up any second, so they can start playing this 1-4 setup. Photon there to assist. The tower top lane drops. Ooh, the flashing from Elyoya.
And Elyoya looking for Kaiser here. Photon able to stay around as well, and Upset is in the area. TP comes out from Perkz towards the mid lane. Bo can join them soon as well. Unstoppable force across the wall. Kaiser with the wild growth. He'll survive. Lightning crash out from Upset. And now in a 1v4, he's forcing them away. Perkz has the ultimate as well. He'll look to catch them. It's 2 as Upset steps forward, but the Pillar of Filth will block his path for the moment. And Carzzy dashes back in. In the end, Vitality save everyone after Elyoya flashed forward, and Mad Lions realize even at a numbers advantage, they can't take the fight.
You can see Elyoya is just, he's trying, right?
Yeah,
he's just looking for something. You don't really have many ways to turn this game around, so you've just got to try and find these very small windows where you can punish your opponent, and that was one of those windows. Kaiser was backing disjointed with the rest of his team, and so Elyoya, the second he saw that opportunity, flashes over the wall to try and get himself a pick. You can see how much Mad committed to trying to get that play. They get the flashes out from Photon and Kaiser, but they can't really convert it into a kill. Vitality walk away. TP invested bot for Photon. He wanted to try and push in that wave, but it doesn't really end up being a whole amount. Now the Baron should be falling off of Vitality, which means that their siege will continue for a little while longer. Mad Lions will be given more opportunities. We'll see how things turn out. But right now, it feels like Mad will need to find some miracle pick or a crazy team fight to be able to turn this game around. Otherwise, it's done and dusted for Vitality. Perkz now hitting level 16 on the Yone.
And just in such a strong position, and the composition suits them perfectly as well, right? Bo puts down the Nature's Grasp. You have Fate Sealed and the Unstoppable Force to follow up. That's why we saw Chasy flashing away, even though he was almost a full screen away from Vitality earlier on. And then, after that follow-ups happen and those people have been chunked out, they retreat from the fight, and Upset's just there full HP. walking at the enemy team. It's like, how on earth do you manage to battle against it? And we're going to see exactly that once again. Perkz dashing forward, Sjokz coming out as well. Gets one route, there's the fate sealed. Upset can now just start walking forward and dashes towards the back of Mad Lions. He's a little bit isolated, but it really doesn't matter, because he is Zeri, and he does exactly what he pleases. Upset with the rune as Perkz going forward once again, flashes in. Can't quite take down the Mad Lions, but the chase continues. Perkz looking for Chasy. Photon coming in as well, does still have that unstoppable force in the end, though. Vitality won't be able to find their kills, but they do find Mad Lions very much hurting.
Well, Matt, they were the team that walked away with a kill. They were able to pick off Bo, still very squishy on this Maokai, and they were able to melt through him as the engage come through. One of the downsides of Yone is that when you start with the E, the problem is you then can't commit to the fight. You then have to walk all the way back to re-engage. So Vitality were at a numbers disadvantage, even though Perkz was there at the start of the fight. So you'll see he's charging up his Q, he's trying to get a knock-up, doesn't quite land it onto Elyoya. The ultimate comes through from Bo, and the moment that it does connect, he throws out the ultimate, then Perkz immediately has to disengage. Now it's a 3 versus 5. Bo is left to the mercy of Mad Lions, and they show him absolutely none. Kaiser looks like he's about to fall off. But look at Upset here, man. He is just 1v5, effectively. On this Zeri. Oh, and yeah, okay, Hylissang died. But wow, Upset's positioning, and he knew he was safe. He had the QSS. I believe he had the barrier up in that fight as well. He wasn't afraid of anything. Hex Flash? Oh.
Okay, Bo just can't do it today. Yeah. It's the second time we've seen him not quite manage to get over the wall. Nature's Grass comes out. Just feels like one of those, look, I tried to flash, I might as well just chuck this out as well. Press all the keys and hope. For the moment, though, Mad Lions able to have some sort of grasp on the precarious position that this game does stand in. Dragon coming up, Mad Lions will take it. Vitality for that will take the Baron.
Yeah. It's one of those games where even if Mad get the soul, I still wouldn't be convinced that that would be enough to bring the game back. It's like one potential win condition, but compositionally it feels like that Vitality have such an edge now that we're so late into the game. This Zeri has 3 fully completed items with a QSS. You know, it gives him so much safety and agency, and then he also has Kaiser offering support behind. And I think the Vitality can just leave Perkz in a side lane right now because no one can kill him.
Yep.
He is an unstoppable force with both the stopwatch and the QSS. He knows he has more than enough damage already. And they can draw pressure towards him, which will then make it easier for Vitality to siege elsewhere. TP comes through from Perkz. I like this a lot. He was a little disjointed with his team. If he'd had to walk all the way to lane, that meant that as they're pushing in that mid wave, it would have been a little bit too disconnected. So he's now going to push in bot, and I expect Vitality to continue their pressure in mid. And I genuinely think that unless Trundle's there, I don't even think they can 2v1 this Yone.
Currently Mad Lions sending all 5 down towards this bottom side of the map. Perkz now level 18 as Carzzy dashes forward. Perkz dashes out with a soul unbound. Vision control for Mad Lions now cleared out by Vitality. The wave crashing on the inhibitor in the mid lane as Mad Lions try and defend. 4 players strong. You can see Chasy not quite here. His poke damage not available to Mad. Nature's Grass comes out. Elyoya tanks it. Perkz goes forward once again, but this is all just a play for the tower. And Vitality will secure it. Upset down to about, 2/3 HP. It's not really going to matter too much. Has the Immortal Shield Bow, has the shields from the Lulu, has the Redemption as well from Bo, and that will top him up.
So the siege is inherently strong when you have the Maokai ultimate. You can see how easy it is to force your opposition off a tower. But now I think Vitality have overcommitted too much on this bot lane. If you're just kind of running up when your only real tower threat is Upset, you're not going to effectively siege when there's so much additional wave clear on the side of Mad and the extra poke that they have from Chasy on the Jayce. So they need to create this 4-1 setup. You can see them now sending Perkz over to the mid lane. The waves are a little bit disconnected. As long as they can keep this cannon minion alive. Oh, but look at this. They're actually trying to keep aggro of the cannon minion so that it's not hitting the tower.
Smart.
Well played there by Mads. And again, like, this is going to slow down their siege a little bit. They are getting chip damage slowly but surely, but this is your ideal setup for Vitality. Keep them pressured on 2 lanes. The only downside is Mad Lions have the ability to, oh, now we can move to bot lane, clear out that wave, move to mid lane, clear out that wave.
It's the issue of not quite having those waves as synced as possible. Perkz going in there, unstoppable force, so immediately Nisqy is popped. The root going down onto Bo as well, but he's tanking it up to tank that tower for days. Mad Lions forced back to their Nexus turrets, and Vitality didn't really care about the waves. Instead, they dived in, and they'll find 2 inhibitors off it.
Yeah, Vitality recognized that they were just so much stronger and said, screw it, let's just dive. They're able to one-shot Nisqy, and now they have 2 pushing waves looking to end the game.
Carzzy dashes forward, dashes back. Perkz cleanses, stopwatches, just everything to make sure he survives the redemption as well from Bo to top up that life pool a little bit. Now Vitality work their way down towards the bottom side. No Baron. Oh, actually, one Baron remains. Now has expired on Kaiser. And Vitality, after taking double inhibitors, will just retreat from any further action. 10,000 gold in the lead, Vedi. Their only risk is Mad Lions take the soul, but even then, as we've said, I don't think Ocean Soul is going to give Mad enough power to overcome Vitality.
Yeah, I mean, Vitality are playing a very patient game right now. They chose not to overcommit in the enemy base. They know that they scale better. They know they're winning the fights. Bloodthirster now completed for Upset. If he wasn't unkillable before, I can promise you he definitely is right now.
How much health do you think he has? Like 2,800?
2,800 is your guess?
Yeah, that's my guess.
His health is 2,830.
That's a lot of health.
Yeah.
Photon has 3,200. He's a tank. He does also have 400 armor, which is obviously, you know, making him a little bit more tanky.
But also Upset has the health you're not taking into account, which is that shield health.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if I can actually, yeah, I can't see on my client how much the shield additionally gives him.
We'll just say a lot.
Yeah, it's a decent amount. Yeah.
You can actually count it. Like each bar is 100
Do you want to count
usually.
it? Is that what you want to do right now, Medic?
He's going to take off the sock again.
One.
Also probably about an extra 500 health or so. Maybe up to 600 off that shield. From the Bloodthirster from the overheal. Bo puts down the Nature's Grasp. Elyoya rooted up by it. Vitality stepping forward once again. Redemption coming out.
Oh.
Bo low. Perkz force towards the backside. Unstoppable force doesn't hit anyone. The charm underneath the tower. But look at Upset. He's full HP. He's got the whole shield to deal with as well. And he gets to. Another goes back over to the Mad Lions, but it's all done for the Nexus falling. Carzzy forced away. He'll fall as well to Perkz' delayed damage from the Soul Unbound. And the Nexus is calling for Vitality. Hylissang the last standing. And Vitality aren't really that happy with that. Hylissang forced back to the fountain. Vitality go 1-0 up in the best of 3.
I mean, very little to criticize on the side of Vitality. They played the early game well, mitigated a lot of what Mad wanted to do. I think their draft was superior as long as they didn't fall behind early.
And they didn't.
And they played the fights well. Yeah. They didn't overcommit onto these early Drakes, which, when you think back to it, that was probably the biggest area with which they could have fallen short.
Yeah.
Trying to fight things like the Lucian, the Ahri, the Trundle as well. Like, that's a scary place to be able to go to this fight, so they didn't bother. They took Heralds where they could to invest more plates into their carries, and I think they also punished the roam timings of Nisqy very well. So overall, very impressive game one from Vitality. This is going to be a very difficult opponent for Mad Lions to overcome.
Or a very easy opponent for Vitality to overcome, depending on how you look at it. We're going to hand it over to the Analysts desk who are ready to break down that game.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We are going to break it down. I love the word you used there in terms of punishing, and I feel like that's what we watched in that last game, Dagda. A lot of Vitality simply saying, oh, you are here, well, we're going to kill you, and making sure that they make their advantage snowball off those picks.
And it's kind of weird, because at the start, I actually kind of liked what we saw from Mad Lions, because one of the big discussions we had was, hey, do we get mid-jungle working together again? And I felt like that's what we got to begin with, and they were going for good invades on the top side up until, 5-6 minutes, and then the whole thing kind of started to fall apart.
Yeah, because initially there was a really cool skirmish where at first Vitality sees Elyoya down on Drake, so they start up the Rift Herald. Elyoya comes up and he's got a level advantage, and it looks like they are actually going to take the skirmish on Mad Lions, but they unfortunately falter with the execution. They still try and look for some of the skirmishes, but then they still fall behind, and when you can't get the mid 2v2 rolling, which was your wheel in the early game, it all just falls apart afterwards.
And I think a huge part of that did come down to where they'd have the mid party, but it'd be the side lane party that kind of faltered for them a lot of the times, right? So when you look at that play at the 8-minute mark at the Rift Herald, it was, oh, we don't actually have top priority, so Photon gets to move first and Malphite, and they get to make the play. Then we had this pick at 11 minutes as well, where they try and invade onto the bottom side, and they have mid-prio, looks good, but they kind of forget about bot lane, and it kind of felt like they were just... That last little bit was all they needed to make the difference.
The last little bit, how much of it starts in draft? And we didn't really see anything, I want to say, revolutionary in terms of patch shifting. Not at all. And the one thing that you both were most frustrated with, I believe, is the bot lane pairing. Okay, Nami Lucian is something that over here in the LEC is very controversial, but I guess it's especially in combination with those bot laners.
I think especially when you look at how much was still available there for Mad Lions to pick up, right? You look and it's like, okay, we'll prioritize Lucian. Zai is still open, the Zeri's open, the Aphelios is open. I mean, hell, even if you think, oh, we're going to leave open like an opportunity there, you can still go for something like a Jinx and go for long range.
Do you not think that the Zaya nerfs warrants her
No,
not
I
being
definitely
left
not.
on the
She's
bench?
still massive in every region. Yeah.
And I also just feel like when you see the bans coming out from Mad Lions, Sejuani, Vi, they still first pick the Maokai. I'm like, if you take away Vi, that means you're looking for Zeri, because then they don't have lockdown for Zeri. You don't take Zeri, enemy team has Zeri, and you draft a composition with no lockdown whatsoever. Who's actually going to touch him in this game? Perkz kind of ran away with it on the Yone, but even if he didn't, Upset was still going to be so much more reliable, and you still did not have tools. If that was an issue, you also had to deal with.
I think as well, when you look at like other regions seeing the high priority, and obviously the VoD was taken away, usually it defaults to Wukong then, with Sejuani gone as well. Letting the Wukong kind of slip through the entire draft. I like the Trundle into the Maokai, but it still felt weird for Vitality to high prioritize this Maokai in the first place as well. I think there was a huge amount of things that you could have done different in those opening picks, but even then as we continued through the draft, I think you have that flexibility in the Jayce there for Mad Lions. I'm surprised we didn't just put the Jayce into the mid lane and go, hey, we're going to go AP top lane. Like we heard, like Guldborg was talking about, Cage was talking about it backstage as well, taking something like the Gwen. I think personally, Kennen would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
Kennen is
buff.
so good on this patch.
Yeah.
It's actually disgusting.
It's crazy.
And the fact that we haven't gotten to see that kind of adaptation from Mad Lions isn't boding well for the rest of the series.
I mean, I guess especially in a conversation that we had with the coaching staff, but also with Pat at the top of the day in terms of, oh, our priorities weren't right, our meta read wasn't right, etc. Is it results-based analysis? Because I feel like it wasn't that bad when we were watching the draft. Or was it? You said, oh, Trundle's actually good here.
I think it comes down to at least some of the last picks that come through, like, as he just said, the fact that we didn't see the flex Jayce is where we can see the value of it in the beginning, where it's like, this is a flex. You can use this to gain a favorable draft. And then when it does not happen, then at first, it's just not what you want to see. For me specifically as well, I thought with the first picks from Vitality, I thought to myself, this lacks priority. Proactivity in the early game. Mad Lions have had huge success with proactivity in the early game when they went for full standard early game composition. So I thought with the Lucian Nami, that was still what they tried to do, but it just didn't happen with the rest of it, right?
Exactly. Results-based analysis for a reason. You know, if you pick the draft, it's got to work out. Otherwise, you'll get judged on it. Let's talk about Perkz a little bit. As we said already, going for Yone, we've had times in his, I want to say most recent development, that sometimes he has taken the more supportive angle,
Exactly.
you know, the roaming around the map, etc., which he does now as well. But now it is to get kills for himself.
It was really lovely to see this side of Perkz again. The fact that he can be the kind of, often say triple threat team of Vitality. He can be that 3 of the teams in terms of finding that. And I think in skirmishes like this, you can also see Mad Lions, they're trying to look for that 2v2 with their mid and the jungle, but it's just not working for them. And when they overextend and they start giving over kills to Perkz so he can just run away with it on the Yone, who's very snowball effective, that's why it just becomes even more difficult for Mad Lions to come back into it when they don't have the, CC tools. They can find a pick with the Ahri, but outside of that, you won't really have any luck locking any one of them down.
I think as well, like Perkz' decision-making in the middle of these fights was next to none. Like the fact that you see, oh, I'm waiting to use my ultimate for the Nami bubble that's about to hit, immediately hits 3 people with the ultimate. His decision-making on how he was going to snap back, when he was going to go in, we even saw it in that first gank, how well he played to avoid that initial pressure. That's what I was really happy to see, because I think when you're on like Aurelion Sol or any duty, you're not going to get to see really the mechanics shine, but Perkz really did put his name forward on this Yone, and it's great to see him like that once more.
Yeah, we only saw one mistake off of him, and even then they're so far ahead it didn't really matter.
Ooh.
But yeah, he was really trigger happy.
It was crazy.
He's a long boy.
He's a long boy. But yeah, he had some flack thrown his way, Perkz, I think, at the end of the regular season, right? Maybe not the performances that he would have hoped to show, but this is completely different. You talk about triple threat teams, maybe it's even quadruple sometimes if everything's going well on a Vitality, but upset on Zeri, you know, it just doing upset on Zeri things.
But I think it makes such a difference, right? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, were worried for Vitality coming into the bracket stage because we're like, look, let's be realistic. They didn't look too hot in winter when we got to this point. So the fact now we get upset fire in all cylinders, Perkz looking fantastic. Look, Bo, not gonna lie, fairly shaky game.
Yeah,
but at least he's getting covered by the rest of the team at the moment.
I was sad to see him on Maokai. After we build up what we did, you know, I bring back the Kindred. We saw Shun have success with that, and the LPL as well, although he couldn't take the series. But even then, like, the fact that we see aggressive picks work in the jungle, and we see Elyoya versus Bo, I was more hopeful for something that was a bit aggressive between the two.
I was also more hopeful, but in general, I feel like the expectations that we had in terms of the Mad Lions and the fact that they really just limped their way into this bracket stage, they seem to ring through so far, and Vitality should be a better team, and they are for now.
I think it's hard to say at this stage what the plan is for Mad Lions, because it feels like once more, we heard from Pat at the start of the day, like, I don't know if it's a bad meta read or what the story is, but the drafts aren't really it, especially when you've had so much time to look at other regions like LPL, LCK that have been playing on 13.5. You get a decent idea of, you know, where the strength of these picks lie. And if, again, we're kind of seeing Mad Lions not willing to go towards a lot of the power picks, in my opinion. And I think if you're looking at like Yone's coming through and, you know, Photon being able to and willing to play things like the Malphite, I think you're going to struggle here as Mad Lions if you're not able to fix just your basic draft here.
Well, surprise, surprise, they're going to the blue side for the next one. The first adaptation they make is?
Yeah, I'm actually not too sure. I think the first adaptation will be the bot lane, but I was a bit surprised because I thought they would use red side to extend their support counter pick and get more value of putting Hylissang on something with engage, but we didn't really see that. So I was thinking in my head as well when I read they're going blue, what is it really that they're prioritizing? Because going off their red side, I wasn't really too sure. The only priority they really had at first was the Jayce. Maybe it's going to be an old Mad Lions classic as well with the Gragas, but that was banned too, right? So it just feels like it's being shut down.
And it's only a best of 3. It's not a best of 5 in which they usually thrive. So let's see what happens for the Mad Lions. And if you're into Teamfight Tactics, make sure to check out the Golden Spatula Cup on twitch.tv/Teamfight Tactics, where the best players in EMEA look to, I work in the region and I can't pronounce it. EMEA look to showcase their skills and continue their climb towards becoming the best TFT player in the region. This is the final stop on the road towards the Rising Legends Final, which is the pinnacle of the EMEA TFT esports. The Golden Spatula Cup starts on Friday, 3:30 CEST, followed by more action on Saturday and Sunday. You can find all the information you need about the tournament in the upcoming action in the EMEA TFT esports on risinglegends.gg.
I'm the GOAT.
Yeah, I'm the GOAT.
Yeah, I'm the GOAT.
Yeah, I'm the GOAT.
You're the GOAT. If this goes on my shit, people will think we have like serious ego problems. Upset is the most humble guy on Vitality. You won't believe it until you hear it.
I actually am, I think. For sure, bro.
Hans Amadeus is once a wrong and lame with Lucian. This guy's so bad.
Keep going. Yeah, nice. Get a ball. Nice.
Flash top.
Go, get a ball. Nice, upset.
Nice.
Yeah, upset. I hit Q flash. Nice, upset. Yeah.
Focus.
We need to do
Okay.